Welcome everybody, my name is Paul. I'm a practicing real estate professional in the western part of Virginia near Lexington. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the very popular question is, when should I buy a house? When should I buy my dream house or whatever? And that's a very important question because it's a very big decision to buy a house. It costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time and involves quite a lot of people. So the timing of it may come into question. Now, sometimes, let's say for example, you wake up one morning and you have your spouse or whatever, maybe you're a young couple, and you say, honey, we got a good job here, let's go buy a house. And let's say I'm a specialist in rural property and you want to live out in the country, so you say, honey, let's go look for houses in the countryside. Now, if you understand how the country is, the countryside where I live, you can drive a lot of miles to look at 20 different houses to see, and the timing of it will make a difference because, of course, there's one factor is weather. There's another factor is interest rates. Let's say you want to purchase, for example, right now here it is at the end of January in 2022, and we heard that perhaps they might raise the interest rates a little bit in March or so on. So you might start thinking, okay, well, if they do raise the rates, then the long-term interest on a long mortgage would be fairly significant. So let's see if we can buy before that rate goes in. Now, the weather in many parts of the country, in the northeast and north central, northwest, it gets really cold. So when you go to buy a house, you may have to get a septic inspection and a well and so on. And if you try to buy in the middle of January in Minnesota, it's just going to be, especially if it's out in the country, it's going to be a mess because out in the countryside, there are issues with wells and septic and so on and pipes and things like that. So the timing in that case would be let's wait until spring. There are many places in the country where the ground is not frozen in the wintertime, California, and of course there's many other places, Florida for example. And so you couldn't get an inspection without too much difficulty. In those areas, if you have to purchase someone to go out and look at your well or septic and tank and see the condition of it. And generally speaking, it is a slow period in the wintertime in most parts of the country, except for the areas where it's very warm, and that continues very commonly year-round, except for there is a pulse around the time near the school season when people move. There's a lot of trading goes on. If you're in a corporate job or something and you get moved somewhere, a lot of times it's convenient so that you can look for a house during the summer and buy it and close by end of August or something, and then be in a good place, ready for the school. So the timing of buying does have a lot of variables and is a very personal decision. I'd say that if time is no object, for example, and you just know that you want to buy a nice property in the country, might as well start in the early part of January because it might take you a few months to really get all the research done. And let's say it is in one of the areas of the country where it gets cold in the wintertime and things kind of slow down and everything. If you were to close on a property at the end of March, actually that's a lovely time to close on a property. I did that one time, and then you close, you move in, all the flowers are blooming, the grass is growing, you got to buy some tools to cut your lawn and stuff, and you get all the birds come down and they see the flowers on the apple trees and so on. So closing on a house or moving in a new place in the springtime is a really lovely personal time. It may not even be financially the best time because there's a lot of bidders out there, and honestly some of the homes get bid up and some areas can get a lot of bidders, and then of course it jacks up the price a little bit over listing. So if you are serious about buying a home and you really want to go for it, then just the timing is a very personal one with you and your spouse perhaps, or maybe you're just alone. And you say, okay, deep down you know, okay, now I'm ready, I'm going to do it, I'm ready to buy myself a place. And then go for it. And then look what's out on the market because, I believe in synchronicity, that sometimes, the time that you just really decide, okay, make a decision on something, then that's when the world kind of moves in your favor, so to speak. So the timing for buying a house is somewhat motivated by financial interest and those sorts of things and weather and conditions and so on, but there's also another element of it. For example, I was involved in a purchase one time with someone who we started looking in September. It was getting into late in the year, like, oh my God. In fact, when we first looked at the property, it had like these little apple trees on it, and it had snowed, and there were still some red apples in the snow, and we thought, oh, this is awesome. Even though we're going into December, not exactly the best time to buy a house, but the way the whole thing worked, the inspection and everything, by the time we closed, it was like March 1st, so we ended up moving in toward the end of March, and it was a very delightful timing. So again, have a little bit of a lead time in your purchase so that when you make an offer on something, there could be a minimum of 30 days before there's a closing. Sometimes it can take weeks, and in some cases take it a couple of months to finally close because there's a lot of people involved and so on. So if your timing is, honey, we want to get our homestead and we're going to close, we want to be in there at the end of March and we're going to start in April and do our garden and everything, then you want to have some lead time, like I said, a couple of months or 3 maybe before when you start looking to the time you close and all the inspections happen. So I am a practicing realtor. I do a lot of scouting for people who are buyers. People call me. We have a lot of interest out here in the countryside in homesteads and land and so on. There's a lot of people who are moving out, elderly people. Myself, I live out in the countryside. I'm 69. I work from home, and it's delightful. It's for years and years and years, people thought, well, when can I work from home? Well, now we have an opportunity because the technology is really available, and there's so many businesses that depend on the internet anyway. So if you want to have a dialogue, you want me to help you search for a property, I can do that. If you're a seller and you listen to this video, then I can also help you market your property and photograph it well and so on. So there's a lot of factors involved in buying and selling, and the timing is one of them. And even among timing, there's some serious considerations about it. But you want to be prepared in advance. So if you want to sell your house, get really prepared well in advance. If you want to put your house on the market on April 1st, then have it really, really ready well before 30 days. Have your documents ready. Just be ready. Get rid of some stuff and have your yard sales if you need to and so on. And then when April 1st comes, or May 1st, when you sign the contract to list your house, you're ready to roll. And if someone walks on the first day and says, hey, I want this house, then you're ready to go. And they love that. And they'll make a better offer if it's time is of an essence sometimes in people when they buy houses and sell houses. So keep that in mind. So again, thanks for listening. I appreciate any feedback. If you have any questions, please leave them below. You can reach me by email. I love talking to people. I listen to other people's content, and I'm an avid fan of homesteading and country living. I've been to many major cities. I've traveled a lot. I've been to quite a few countries, and still I live in the beautiful Virginia. My phrase about Virginia is, visit for fun, stay for life. It's a beautiful state, lots of homesteading going on here, and we have all the seasons, and it's lovely. So I hope to see you in some of my other videos, and thanks again for listening.